and welcome to another installment of Metallic Reviews, the show where I take an honest look at the harder, heavier side of music and give it an honest rating. Today, we're going to be diving into a bastion of symphonic rock and metal that really kind of tends to fly under the radar a little bit. Fans of this particular subgenre almost immediately snap to bands like Nightwish and Epica, and not without reason, but when it comes to a band like Within Temptation, our subjects for today, the audible evolution is something that cannot be ignored. Their transformation, going from a classic symphonic metal outfit to this Evanescence-esque alternative rock, goth rock mix-up over the years, it's something that can't be ignored. It's also something that reaches its peak on their newest album, Bleed Out, which came out October 20th on the band's new self-owned label, Force Music Recordings. It's their first effort since 2019's Resist, which was a fair bit of that Evanescence-esque alt-rock. So, have they moved away from that? They're staying their course? Let's jump in and find out. You know what? I don't even have to bother jumping in. I can go and answer that question in the affirmative. This is basically Resist Part 2. The production is massive. There's not a lot in terms of the heavier or more brutal metallic elements, and everything on here is just really accessible, really radio-friendly. And that's enough to turn away a lot of metal fans, but it's also enough to envelop a lot of people that might be new to the metal world. Shocking, I know. You know, that's why I'm glad that bands like Within Temptation exist, because these are the gateways to the heavier, weirder aspects of the genre. Now, that being said, Within Temptation have been a personal favorite of mine for a long time. I consider albums like Hydra and The Heart of Everything among the highest echelons of that symphonic rock/metal material. So, that being said, this album is oddly good. Oddly good. Now, the reason I say it's oddly good is that an album written like this, it shouldn't work. It's extremely synth-heavy, and the guitars kind of take a little bit of a backseat to everything. Not only that, but a lot of their more symphonic and grandiose elements have been sort of kind of stripped away. Again, this is that Evanescence brand of gothic, female-fronted alternative rock that bands like Hailstorm run away from, while bands like The Birthday Massacre worship. It's got all the hallmarks from the hollower production to the endless amounts of beeps and boops that populate these types of albums. But again, the record works, and it is sort of kind of among my favorites of the year so far, not gonna lie. It's got great catchy melody, and it's got a sense of placement within the band's overall discography that's just very well thought out. I'm also a big fan of the overall production on the record. It was mixed by Zach Cervini, who has worked with Lorna Shore, and mastered by Ted Jensen, who's worked with basically everybody. He's something of a mastering master. Yeah, the guy has worked with Alice in Chains, he's worked with Dream Theater, and he's also responsible for mastering Infestissimum by Ghost, one of my all-time favorite records. So, needless to say, the sounds here are massive and reinforced by this wonderful wall of sound approach to the overall product. Now, this is especially true on songs like album opener We Go to War, Ritual, and the title track. Now, though it is huge, it's never truly suffocating, leaving room for the listener to truly appreciate what they're hearing. On the downside, again, a lot of this is basically Resist recycled, especially when it comes to the first half versus the second half. I remember not liking the second half of Resist as much as the first, and that's, once again, the truth here. It's not quite as harsh of a disparity on here. The second half of Bleed Out does have its moments, and there are songs here that I would definitely return to over those on Resist. However, the front half is definitely better. I'm also not a fan of a ton of the lyricism on here. I get some of the messages that the band's going for, but I'd like them to be a bit more linguistically mature in their song, in their lyric writing. It's never dumb to the point of being laughable parody, but there are some cringeworthy moments here, so be prepared. Overall, though, Within Temptation have released yet another album that's well above par. It's catchy, massively produced, and has some of the band's best moments. Well, I don't think it comes close to touching Hydra or The Heart of Everything or even some of the stuff off The Unforgiving. It's definitely one of the better albums of 2023. It might even make an appearance on my Album of the Year video. You'll have to watch and find out. But in light of all that, I am giving Bleed Out a very solid 4.5 out of 5. Thanks so much for watching. Click like, and please don't forget to subscribe for more Metallic reviews. Next week, just in time for spooky season, we're going to have 2 straight weeks of death metal, starting with death metal legends Autopsy and their new one, Ashes, Organs, Blood, and Crypts. I hope you'll join me. You've been watching Metallic Reviews, where I give honest ratings to honest music, and I will see y'all next time.